Comms check, 1, 2, testing, just making sure we wait a few seconds before we say anything, because sometimes what we find is that the stream doesn't start recording until a few seconds after we do. So there you go. That's that taken care of. Welcome to the show, boys and girls, for the first of 4 hours of contact time here. We're in, I'll be talking to Captain Dr. Ryan Attar, herbalist and crispy bacon specialist, as well as naturopath and expert in the control, I guess, and or indeed complete amelioration, really, by way of such good control of type 1 diabetes using dietary intervention. And we look very much forward to Ryan's input in the next hour, questions, answers, all to come. Following this hour, I'll be talking to Mr. Brett Lloyd, who is going to weigh in on the Saladino issue. So that will be an interesting hour. That will be well worth a look-see. Following that, I'm talking to my new best friend, doppelganger Bronson Dant, who will be talking about his book, I'm sure, and a few other things that have been going on. And he'll be looking a lot like me, and being the same age and having the same haircut and all of those things. It's quite good. He's a much better doppelganger for me than that other character that was pretending to be me for a while ever was. Following that, in the final hour, I don't know how long it will take, but we'll sit through it however long it takes. It'll be late for most of you, but there you go. We'll be having the so-called chill discussion, otherwise known as debate, but not really an official debate, with Mr. Vegan Water Pistol, or whatever he calls himself, who wants to tell us that he knows all about nutrition and that I know nothing about it, and he's going to destroy me and teach me a lesson. So we'll look forward to that very, very much, won't we, Ted? Ted, I did not see you there in your camouflage. Goodness me, Ted is a camouflage expert, isn't he, Ryan?
He is. I can't see him. Much more better camouflage than I am.
The crispy bacon, though, is a good look for hiding underneath piles of crispy bacon, isn't it?
It is. There's nothing bacon can't do.
Exactly. Right. Let's see what's happening in the chat before we get moving, and then we can get moving on the main thrust of the show, if you like, really. Okay, so Jennifer Matthews is a 66-year-old F, type 1 for 45 years. Goodness me. Low carb 15 Bernstein style. Very good choice. Carnivore for the last 3 years, even better choice. Was good low carb with basil every 3 months, but now basil tastes fine. Next day, mostly beef, and I am all over 5-1-1-12.
She corrected that.
51-1-12.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, would you like to translate any of that, Ryan, for us into something that we can use?
Awesome that she's following the Bernstein method, and it really is the only way to truly normalize blood sugars and get normal and non-diabetic A1Cs like she has. That 4.5 is fantastic. And you show the Mastering Diabetes guys stuff all the time, and they have basically pre-diabetic A1Cs, and they're calling it mastered and calling it success when they're really not. And Jennifer's doing great. So she's saying she's all over the place. Basically, she was fine following Bernstein's. So Bernstein is a low carb. He advocates for a low carb diet. It's not specifically carnivore. It's focused on protein and then low carb vegetables. And that's what I did for most of the time I've been a diabetic and carnivore the past basically 3 years. And I find as far as blood sugar control, it's about the same. They're both excellent for doing it. I find other benefits health-wise to the carnivore piece, but as far as blood sugars go, I have great control with both. But so she's saying that with carnivore, her blood sugars are a little more erratic. If she's still in the chat, I'm really curious, like how long before carnivore she was doing the Bernstein method. Because for a lot of people, if you have diabetes for 45 years, and you're following the standard of care, you're going to have diabetic blood sugars. And that's comes with that is complications. And one that happens eventually to a lot of diabetics is gastroparesis. So that's damage to the nerves that control our digestion. And this can be really bad for a diabetic because, you're taking insulin, you're eating food, and now the food is unpredictable. You don't know when your stomach is going to empty or how quickly it's going to move. So blood sugars can go all over the place. So I'm curious if that's what's going on, especially she might be eating like more protein than she was following just Bernstein's macros, which is good, which is fine, but she might need to adjust how she takes her insulin if she has like slow digestion. So I'd be curious if she's still in the chat to hear her thoughts on that. And yeah, I mean, it sounds like she's doing a fasting basal test, so she's testing her blood sugars when she's not eating, and they're fine. It's just the meat is causing a little bit sporadic blood sugars, and yeah, that can usually be fixed with taking a little bit more insulin, splitting your insulin dose, or something like that. Yeah, so I think she's doing really well with that A1C, and just probably needs.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, really good. Much better than 6, which is as you correctly posit there, Ryan. 6 is not a success in terms of A1C.
Yeah,
not remotely,
and not mastering anything.
No, that's not mastering anything.
Except making money off of vegans.
Exactly. Yep. The only people that are mastering things here apparently is yours truly. Apparently, I'm a master debater. A master debater. Apparently, I'm having a tremendous pull. Okay, good. So we'll look forward to later on when we can taunt the vegan water pistol bloke about his mother smelling of elderberries or something. All right, good. Yes, more protein and fat. Yeah, the protein thing can be an issue potentially if you don't get that quite right. Either too much or too little protein can lead you to all sorts of bad places. Most notably, it can lead you to a point where we point at you and say you did it wrong and you never really were accountable. No, we won't do that. We'll just help you get it right. Unlike the vegans who would point at you and say you never really were a vegan and you did it wrong, even if you didn't. So, all right.
Yeah, with more protein, fat, it's still doable. Like you just have to figure out how to balance your insulin.
Exactly, and you worked it out for yourself.
What I'm using and what Jennifer is using, we're not using the normal super rapid acting insulins that everyone does, because these insulins are developed for high carb diets, and they're very fast acting and they're very strong. If I were to eat a meal of steak and take that, my blood sugar would plummet because the insulin is just too fast. So we use this older insulin. It's called R insulin, regular insulin. And it's actually very cheap too. People complain about insulin prices, but like $40 gets me about 3 months of that insulin. So that's less than most people's copay for insulin here in the USA. But yeah, so we use this really slow acting insulin. There are slow acting insulins you take once a day to cover your basal rates, but this is a slow acting mealtime insulin, and it's easy to match up these protein meals with that.
Awesome. So tell us the story of how you came across Dr.
I see this here. Yeah. How did I come across Dr. B? Was it from a random Google search? Okay. So I initially came across just a low carb diet from a CrossFit gym in 2010. So this is like, now there's CrossFit gyms on every corner, but this time there were very, very few of them. And the owner of this gym was really, really ahead of the curve in a lot of things, especially nutrition. And he did like a paleo diet challenge. And this is before I had any studying of nutrition or anything like that. This is, like back in 2010. And so he did a paleo diet challenge for the gym, and we could sign up and do it. And when he was pitching it one day, he said, it's great for all kinds of health issues. It's great for weight loss. It's great for diabetes. And I'm like, I'm a type 1 diabetic. It's not going to help me. I mean, I take my insulin and that's good. He's like, why don't you give it a try? And I'm like, okay. And what I learned was his paleo diet was actually a low carb paleo diet, because a lot of people do a paleo diet and they'll eat a lot of fruit and sweet potatoes and other starchy things. But this was a low carb paleo diet. And my insulin requirement dropped way down, and I got really, really good control of my blood sugars. And I'm like, what is this? Like, why is nobody telling me about this? And after that, I joined some kind of low carb groups, which still weren't many at the time. And and we're growing. And so I joined and got into this community and eventually learned, I forgot exactly where I learned along the way, but I learned of Dr. Bernstein. And then when I was in school, I actually reached out to him and interned at his office for a couple of days and watched him go through his whole procedure with a new patient. And he sees a new patient for 3 full days. So a new patient goes in 3 8-hour days. They'll go see him because he does a lot. He does a lot of testing for complications. He does a lot of education, and he's the best in the world at this. So I was really lucky to get to go and spend some time with him. So that's really, I wrote an article about that experience too. If you search on Google for 3 days with Dr. Bernstein, you'll find that article that I wrote about my time there.
Awesome. Very good. Is that a Captain America t-shirt you're wearing there, Captain?
That's it. Yeah. This is just
very nice.
Yeah. I was given the super soldier serum just like him when I was in the army. It just misfired and gave me diabetes instead.
Yeah. So it backfired. All right. Okay. All right. Well, then. MDs are advising type 1 diabetics to use gasoline to put out a fire. What do you think of that?
Yeah. There really isn't any kind of dietary restriction from most endocrinologists when they're talking to their diabetic patients, type 1 diabetic patients. It's basically continue eating your diet and, match that diet with whatever insulin you need to cover it. And yeah, that's just a recipe for disaster. And currently, we used to think of type 1 diabetics as like the skinny, the lean diabetics, where type 2 are the overweight diabetics. But right now, type 1 diabetics are more overweight than the general public. So we are now the fat diabetics. I mean, I'm not, but most of us are.
Right, but then you're controlled, and most type 1 diabetics are not remotely controlled, especially if they listen to those two clowns that tell you that 6 is a win.
Yeah. I'm not knocking anyone's weight or appearance. I'm just talking about the medical statistic facts about type 1 diabetics right now. I don't want to get your channel in.
Yeah, no, you can say people in general are fatter. That's fine. You're just not allowed to refer to any one specific person by any identifiable, name or whatever, and say that person looks ugly or fat, or look at their teeth or something like that.
Got it.
It's bullying, apparently. Yes, bullying. Yes, so apparently now Frankie is promoting bread and steak diet. That's possibly a good segue into the little experiment that we've got planned.
Yeah.
Some of you saw Ryan as a guest on my channel before all the nonsense hit not long ago, and all my videos had to come down and I had to start all over again. And we thought, we could repost that video with some editing and whatever else. Or we could just do the experiment again today for you live. So we thought we would. Bread. Is that a good idea?
No. And no bread and no grains are a good idea. And there's kind of this myth of the complex carb, as in the complex carbs are good things, like whole grains are good things because you're getting all of this energy given to you slowly and it's sustained and all of this. But all carbs, all starches, all breads, even the best whole grain breads are just chains of glucose. So starch is just a chain of glucose. And the little experiment I'm going to do is I got right here some whole grain bread. No sugar in this bread at all. I also have right here a glucometer. So this thing, I can prick my finger and test my blood sugar, and it only detects sugar. And so that's how we test our blood sugar. And I also wear a monitor, a continuous glucose monitor that's reading all day long. So I don't actually use this thing as much as I used to. So what I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to chew a little piece of this bread. And when starches hit your saliva, there's an enzyme called salivary amylase that breaks these chains of starch and turns it into pure sugar. So this thought that these complex carbs are giving you this kind of like sustained energy all day long, it's really not. It's turning to sugar in your mouth. That doesn't even hit your stomach yet, and it's already sugar. So for the purpose of this, I'm going to eat this little piece of bread.
You're taking one for the team, aren't you, Ryan?
Then this is going in the trash.
Awesome.
So right now, My saliva, that's why kind of starches get sweeter in your mouth when you chew them. Starch it's turning into sugar, pure glucose. This machine is a little tricky. It needs just the right amount of a blood drop to set off the sensor. If it's too much, it'll even give me error. So hopefully I'll get it on the first try. We'll see. So error. Well, I'm changing that. A normal blood sugar is like around 80. If I did this machine to my saliva with nothing in my mouth, it would also give an error. It would say, or be a really, really low number, like 10, 20. But you'll see what it does here. Let's try this one more time.
Never do live television. It worked. It worked perfectly the first time we did this. We could always superimpose that old footage if we need to.
We'll try one more. There it goes. 531.
Wow.
Yeah. That's all that starch, all that whole grain turned into pure sugar. It's not even in my stomach yet. So that's why I don't eat any starch or sugar, even complex carbs.
All right. So 531. Woo. From some whole grain bread.
Yeah.
With no added sugar in it.
Nope.
Healthy whole grains with a low GI rating.
Yeah.
Good for your stuff.
Yeah. If any diabetics watching, you can always use these machines to test your food or drink. If you ordered a diet drink and you don't know if it was, you can do exactly that and see. It only detects glucose. So people sometimes use it for that.
All right. Okay. Apparently I need to get someone called Hope Warshaw on. Who is that?
Yes. Hope Warshaw is this name in the diabetes world for a long time, and big promoter of high carb. She hates low carb stuff. I would describe her appearance, but I won't.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, she used to be the president of the American Association of Diabetes Educators and another big organization. She's a big name. She has a debate with Dr. Bernstein from like 15 years ago, and he does this little trick. I'm stealing this trick from Dr. Bernstein. He does it. He does it with the dipstick though. The little like the urine sticks that you can dip in and it will turn purple if it has glucose. He does it with that and just he turns the stick purple from his saliva after eating whole grain. So yes, credit where credit is due. He was the first to do that little trick.
Right. Okay. Just getting an image of Hope Warshaw up here. Rightio. Rightio. Okie dokie.
Yeah, she promotes a lot of junk, high carb stuff. She has a debate with Bernstein, and he basically says his piece. He's like, diabetics deserve normal blood sugars. Hope thinks diabetics are entitled to cake and bread. Like, no, their health comes first, and this is what we should be doing to achieve that.
Okay. Let's see. Does that work?
Yeah, that's her.
There we go. Right. Okay. So now we don't need to describe her appearance at all.
Yeah, and anyone out there, diabetics, if you look up the Bernstein Warshaw debate on D Life, it's like 15 years old. Yeah, it's a good watch.
Okay.
It's not much of a debate, but it's just Bernstein telling the facts.
Right. And let's have a look here.
I have a comment from the Facebook group.
Okay.
It's from Rock. I don't know if he's in the chat, but it's from Rock,
Yep.
and and there's hope.
Yeah. Lovely.
Um, Rock says, "How can you be active in the military if you're type 1? You're not on insulin, I suppose." Or is the old picture of it being before being type 1? So yes, that picture of me was before I got diabetes. So I came down with type 1 diabetes while I was in the Army. And if you're a type 1 diabetic, you're not fit for duty. You can't join the military, and if you're in, you will get medically retired. So I did. I had about a year in the military after I got diagnosed, where I was still working until I got medically retired. But then I was out. I spent about 6 years in total.
Yeah. Okay. So 30,000 steps and sprinting 3 times a day, is that too much exercise for a type 1 who also does weights once a week? It might well be. It depends on all sorts of other things, really, doesn't it?
Well, I don't think your type 1 status matters. But is 30,000 steps too much for anyone? I mean, it might be okay for you. Depending on your body type and goals and weight goals and different things. But as a type 1, no. If your blood sugars are normalized, then there's no reason you can't do anything physically that other people can't. Mm-hmm. So is the 30,000 steps affecting your blood sugars? Then it can have an insulin sensitizing effect, but that's a good thing.
Cool. All right. That's kind of a pretty broad brushstroke question there. Is blood sugar related to body size? I mean, do you mean chronically, acutely, over a shorter period of time? Body fat? Or do you mean, are bigger people prone to having different levels of blood sugar than smaller people, or what they're exactly, Ervis? I mean, you could also say, yes, if you have chronically elevated blood sugar, then you're very, very likely to also experience excess weight carriage in the form of fat.
Yeah. So. Yeah, man. It goes hand in hand, obesity and type 2 diabetes. So I don't know which is the chicken and which is the egg, but probably a little of both.
Mm-hmm. All right. People still trying to negotiate with the Randall cycle thing here. There's a lot of this going around. Huh. If you eat your fruit and fat separately and you use your fruit, for example, before your workout, so you burn the sugar off, is it really bad?
Well, burn the sugar off. I mean, if you're having a spiked blood sugar from eating fruit, it's not about burning it off. It's about the fact that your blood sugar is elevated and doing damage to your body. So you want to avoid that.
Yeah. A lot of people also don't seem to realize or have their heads around the concept that fructose is somewhere between 4 and 10 times more glycating than glucose. Fructose is one of the worst things you can put into your body behind seed oils.
Yeah. Frankly.
And, 300 and 400 grams a day of carbs, of which probably half is fructose, that could lead you to all sorts of problems, couldn't it? But we'll talk about that with Brett in the next hour.
Yeah. So this person, I don't know if this person's a diabetic or not, but if they are diabetic, what are your blood sugars like when you eat that fruit? And I almost guarantee they're going to be spiking. If you're not a diabetic, you can pick one of these up for $9 at Walmart and test your blood sugar. You don't need a fancy CGM or anything like that. You can test your blood sugar and eat something like fruit and see what it's like. See what it's like 30 minutes after you eat it, an hour, 2 hours after you eating it, and seeing what it's doing to your body.
Yep. There you go. You've been changing lives there, Ryan.
And not until Dr. Tar.
There you go. Someone that's followed your lead and has.
Oh, Teresa. Oh yes, Teresa. Hi. Nice to see you in the chat.
Cool. There you go. There's a nice little what's the word? You know, when somebody gives you a promotion, I
Yeah.
can't even think of the word. It's too early in the morning, my time,
Ah,
being nearly 1,200 hours now. Dear, dear. Okay. Scott's here. Good to see you, Scott. Just in the background causing trouble as usual. Are you there, son? Good. Yeah. Yes, thank you for the experiment. It really was quite amazing, wasn't it, to see what happens to the sugar just in your mouth, you know,
yeah.
with the so-called, slow carbohydrates. Incredible.
Yeah. I mean, there is some degree of like fiber in the food, slowing down that glucose absorption when it gets it's past your mouth and into your stomach and intestines. But it's still, for a diabetic, it's such a huge impact on our blood sugar. And
Yeah.
I always say this: the saying that like whole grains is healthy for diabetics is like saying filtered cigarettes is healthy for smokers as opposed to regular cigarettes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yes. All right. ABK, I have to lose 20 to 30 pounds. Okay. When I fast, my blood sugar readings get below 49 sometimes. When this happens, I feel okay, but would you say it shouldn't be that low ever? No books mention this. That does sound quite low.
It sounds low. If they're an insulin dependent diabetic like me, then that means too much insulin. But it doesn't sound like they're a diabetic. But yeah, if you are on insulin and you're going that low, that means you're taking too much insulin and you have to adjust your doses.
Yeah.
But for someone that's not, I mean, if they're feeling, I'm curious if you feel like you're low, you're shaky, lightheaded. Yeah, but it might be. I'm curious how you're testing too, because some meters are better than others, so the meter might not be accurate.
Yeah, no, I think your experience, as Ryan is suggesting, I think your actual experience of what's happening to you at the time is probably your best gauge. If you were genuinely hypo, either you or people around you would definitely pick it up, and you would know.
You're saying he's non-diabetic.
Mm.
If you have a ketone meter, I don't really tell people to check their ketones. There's really no point, but I bet your ketones were super high, and that's when your blood sugar is going low. So it could just mean eat more protein and less fat too.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. All right. So we are near the bottom of the chat stream, boys and girls. It's not often that we get to have such a knowledgeable person on board with us for a live questions and answers hour. So do get your questions in, and if you want to make sure your question floats to the top, you can put a $5 million super chat on it if you want to, or even a smaller amount than that. And Yellow Ted, who is running the show, he's twiddling the knobs is what he's doing. He's also practicing his camouflage training. Can you see how camouflage Ted is there? It's incredible, really. He's making all the selections in the background as to whose comment gets to come to the top. So, yep, do get your questions in.
I'm curious to ask Bart, your debate with the vegan later today.
Yeah.
Did he have any topics he wants to talk about, or is he just going to let you have it?
Well, he thinks he's going to let me have it and teach me a lesson and destroy me on all aspects of nutrition and all of that. It'll be interesting.
He had a debate with our boy Joey, who's awesome and is making really great, really bright guy, and he's going to do great with whatever he does in life. But he had a little debate with him, and Joey was just kind of destroying him.
Yeah, he would, because Joey has more than 3 brain cells, and Joey has many more than 3 brain cells, and as such, I haven't actually seen it, but I imagine he dealt with vegan pea shooter with a flick of his wrist and probably didn't break a sweat doing it, I would imagine.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that very much later on. I did see him doing a critique of Joey that I responded to during the week, just as a kind of a bit of a warm-up, wind him up sort of situation, where he was claiming, get this, that anyone who would claim any meat-based diet of any kind could possibly be superior to a diet consisting of solely sweet potato, he will destroy them. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm gonna bring that one up for sure, and we'll go through some numbers on that and see whether that one stacks up for more than 2 or 3 seconds. Because yeah, that's awesome. Yep, a sweet potato diet is superior to any meat-based diet, is it? Okay, good.
I see a question from Mike Fitz in the chat.
Yes, Mike Fitz, can you explain why protein causes my blood sugar to rise even combined with no other macros? Why are we type 1s not told to bolus out protein? Yep, good question.
Yeah, protein does have a mild, slow blood sugar spike, and it's not actually the protein turning into glucose that's happening. It's not gluconeogenesis. We do have gluconeogenesis always going on, but that's not stimulated by the food going into our stomach and intestines. What's happening in a type 1 diabetic is as that food is moving through our digestive system, in a non-diabetic, this stimulates insulin and glucagon to be released. In a type 1 diabetic, we're not making glucagon, so we're not making insulin, but we still have glucagon being stimulated slowly from that protein moving. So that our insulin is basically covering that slow glucagon release, which can be like even 3 or 4 hours after a big protein meal. So that's what we're seeing. Now, why aren't type 1s ever told by their endocrinologists to bolus for protein? It's because they don't look at the standards of care of the blood sugar ranges. It's like 80 to 180 or 70 to 180. Huge range. I could basically eat pizza every day and stay in that range. It's ridiculous. What's happening? They're just bolusing for the carbohydrates in there and kind of having this big spike and then drop off. And that mild protein spike is just getting lost in all of the other blood sugar spikes that they're having. So they just don't notice it because they're having bigger effects from the rapid insulin and the carbs that they're eating. So that's basically why it's never addressed. And because not many type 1 diabetics are getting really, really good control of their blood sugars like those of us, following Bernstein's method. Yeah,
they're not even getting decent advice, let alone actually getting control. All right, 10 Australian Pacific pesos. Appreciate those very much, Shay. Thank you very much. G'day, and thanks for all your content. You're very welcome. Love what you do. Thanks. It's hard work, and it's good that it's hitting the mark somewhere. Top tips for dealing with PCOS and hormonal imbalance in regards to exercise. Ryan, is that something that you feel apt to tackle?
Well, one thing with PCOS is, imagine if this is someone in the chat, they're probably following the carnivore diet, and I think that's really, really great because very often with PCOS, folks get insulin resistant and basically weight gain and symptoms just like a type 2 diabetic. So, I couldn't stress more keeping blood sugars under control through your diet like that. And exercise has a profound impact on insulin sensitivity as well. And so, couldn't recommend that enough on top of that. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. I would say in terms of exercise modality, it's really, really important to make sure that your intensity is high and your volume is moderate to low. All of this long, slow distance, so-called cardiovascular, sometimes referred to as aerobic work, is absolutely contraindicated, not only for people with PCOS, but in general as well. It will tear your health down because it will tear your muscle mass down. And that's not what we want to achieve. We want the most active muscle tissue on your frame that we can put there without doing something unnatural, taking the juice and being a bodybuilder. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about maximizing your natural tendency to carry muscle mass at your peak of health and what they refer to as insulin sensitivity. And as such, stripping muscle mass off yourself is working against that and is not indicated at all. So that's what I would add to that. H. pylori, good remedies for that one, Ryan.
The carnivore lion, so I'm assuming, is eating carnivore and getting H. pylori.
Yeah, he has had his issues, to be fair, in his past with his health, etc., which I can talk to you about with his permission behind the scenes a bit.
Yeah.
But yes, he is currently, a carnivore devotee. He's currently eating a proper carnivore diet and doing his best.
What was there like a relapse that kind of triggered that, or just while he was eating carnivore, the H. pylori came about?
Yeah, give us a bit more, Scott, if you feel like you want to here in the public forum. If not, send me an email in the background, and we'll hook you up with Ryan in the background around that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, H. pylori can be an issue. Yes.
But I would say rare in somebody that's eating a carnivore diet or even just a low carb diet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can
you do the test with bacon?
No, you do have to watch out because they put sugar in a lot of bacon. So I make sure bacon that's sugar free. Yeah. So if it was one of those sugar bacons, that definitely would happen. But actually, you wouldn't even need to chew it if it was actually sugar in there. The meter would just get set off from the sugar in the bacon because it's not the starch that has to be broken down by the saliva.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. So money is just spending power. Paper money is really worth nothing.
I saw a previous one from this same person asking how to avoid cheating.
Okay. Yep. Let's see if we can find that one. There we go.
Yeah.
How to avoid cheating on the carnivore diet.
Yeah. I was just helping out a patient this weekend with exactly that. And get all the bad foods out of your house. Like start with that and make sure you have everything planned out and all the good foods that you need there. And it's there when you have a meal, because if you don't have something ready and there's, high carb snacks still in your cupboard, you're going to eat it. It's really hard to have self-control when it's sitting in front of us like that and we're hungry, but have all that stuff ready. And one thing I mention a lot too is like snacking, and people always ask, what can I snack on a carnivore diet? And by all means, have some kind of carnivore snack, but always think, what did you have at your last meal? And you probably didn't eat enough, and you probably didn't eat especially enough protein at your last meal. And when we do that, we don't really want to snack in between the meals.
Okay. And Ramacla 3 is a young'un still living at home.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah.
Parents eating the Latin diet.
Yeah. Do your, and I know it's tough, and do your best to have your food around so that when you are tempted, you can just go for that and feel satiated. Yeah.
Okay, good. And also, if you don't eat your fruits and vegetables, you might die. But that's another thing to keep in mind too.
I miss those videos.
Yeah.
I miss your videos of his videos.
Yes. I miss that kind of thing too. But folks that feel aggrieved and feel like they missed the old style presentation that I used to do,
Odyssey.
You guys don't need to miss it, because it's all still there. It's all still available. It's just not on this platform, the YouTube platform, anymore. It's now all reposited on another platform where the rules are a bit more sensible, shall we say, in terms of free speech and the ability to share ideas and say what you want to say and things, of that kind of basic First Amendment sort of nature. You could probably find that other platform if you took an odyssey of discovery around the internet, and such an odyssey might lead you to where you might potentially find such a platform where you might find all my old videos intact and still available for your viewing pleasure as we speak. Only not right now because we're live here, And once we're finished being live here, we'll talk to Brett Lloyd about his thoughts on the Saladino saga. And following that, we have Mr. Bronson Danton to talk about training and keto. And in the last hour, I'm going to be destroyed and taught a lesson about science by some stoner from Sydney. So that'll be great. This will be wildly amusing from all sorts of angles, I think. And
Why does
I'm
it
really
seem like
looking
there's a vast majority of the vegans are Australian? Is that a thing? Or is it?
I don't know. I haven't
like
really noticed.
There's a lot more Australian vegans on making these videos than other countries.
Okay. All right. If that's your observation, that's probably valid.
You haven't noticed that. You haven't noticed that.
No. I mean, when you think about it, there are quite a few. Relative to sort of population size, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. There's a good question that we often get. Thoughts on Tedneyman and his PE diet and all of that as it relates to carnivore, and probably as that relates to type 1 diabetics as well, Ryan.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the exact specifics of his diet, but I know the concept of it, and I think we have to find the right ratio of protein and for carnivores, fat energy from fat, and that can make or break the carnivore diet or low carb diet if that's off.
Yep, absolutely. I'm not really expert myself in Ted's exact advice to people, but I have heard tell that it sounds like his suggestion around the protein level is way too high potentially, and the fat is way too low potentially, which could lead to other issues. All right. So, Miss Patricia, are all of you going to be watching the discussion later, Miss Patricia? Are you all going to be there? Or are you going to take turns watching? Or how does that going to work? I'm not quite sure. Yes.
I feel like with carnivore too, it's easy to listen to your body when it comes to the right amount of fat and protein. And it's like, I got the other day, I didn't even realize what I was picking up, but they were like 93% lean beef patties, so like hamburgers, but 93%. And it's like it was hard to eat them. It was too much. It just didn't. It wasn't satiating. It was like a little bit less, like 80% lean beef patties. Much taste much better. Go down easier. Feel better.
Yeah, and there's going to be quite a bump in the blood glucose for hours and hours after a meal that's that high in protein, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, there's such a thing as not enough, and there's such a thing as too much of just about everything, I think.
Yeah.
All right. Norm, good to meet you, Norm. He says, hi, I'm Norm. My pronouns used to be ivermectin and hydrochloroquine, but now they're handsome and intelligent. Anyway, my question is, well, I guess we'll wait for your question to come through.
Geez, leave us be, Norm.
Yeah, Ted, of course, identifies as a giant in the entertainment industries, and his pronouns are fee-fi, fo, and fum. So, how do you identify, Ryan, and what are your pronouns?
My pronoun, I just have one, captain.
Yes.
Or sir, captain or sir.
Very good, captain, sir. And I do need to mention, I did not see you this morning at the camouflage training.
Sir, sorry, sir. I was actually there. I was so camouflaged that you didn't see me. That's why.
What is your major malfunction, soldier? The correct answer is, thank you, sir. Oh, dear. Or, not I was hiding under the crispy bacon or anything else, soldier. Goodness. What fun. All right. Good, we're glad you're watching, Jennifer. Excellent. Oh, you mean you're watching later, perhaps, is what you mean. Yes, keep watching. Good. Super lean beef turns out to be dry. Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. Yes, now here was an interesting bit of news from the week. In German Burger Kings, they are actually asking people whether you want a normal burger or one with meat in it.
Hmm.
You know, that's not propaganda at all, is it? Now, would you like your burger normal, or would you like a meat one?
I'm surprised too if that's Germany. I lived in Germany for 4 years when I was in the army, and they have pretty good quality food over there, and they like real fresh food, not processed stuff. So I'm surprised that's happening.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Looks like we've got Norm's question here. Carnivore for a year, fast 12 to 16. Most days, ketones are low. Why? Good one. Ryan.
Oh, sorry, Mike.
Yes, you're up. This is Ryan's questions and answers session.
Ketones are low. Well, I mean, I don't think your ketones should be your goal. And really depends on how you're eating, whether or not you're going to have ketones or not. And you would think after a 12 to 16 hour fast, that someone that's on a low carb carnivore diet is going to have some ketones, but I don't think ketones can have some benefits, but we don't need to have them, and our bodies can make them when it needs them. And what is low too? I think that'd be curious, but yeah, I wouldn't even recommend testing them. The only people really that need to ever test for ketones are type 1 diabetics. If you're at the risk for diabetic ketoacidosis, which has nothing to do with nutritional ketosis at all, but if you have uncontrolled blood sugars, you can have ketoacidosis, which is really, really bad, and it might be something that a type 1 diabetic needs to check out.
Absolutely. And the other thing to keep in mind is that ketones are basically acetyl units combined together, jammed together, and stacked up for use later. And if you've just done a bunch of exercise, for example, or you've had a stressful day, or you've been running around, or whatever it is, that a lot of your ketones that may well have been produced have been used to be split down into acetyl coenzyme A units, thus through the TCA cycle to produce some energy for you. And as such, your blood and or urine ketones will be low, whatever low is. But that doesn't mean you weren't creating them, you weren't generating them, you still were. It's just that they've been used. That's what they're for. They're a temporal, spatial, energy buffering system. They're a way of quickly translocating acetyl units around the body to various tissues that need them at various times in a hurry. Brain, muscles, heart, whatever. So, yeah, the fact that you have a low concentration reading doesn't mean that you weren't producing them. And I'm very much like Ryan. I never suggest to people that they bother wasting their time and money on these fancy bits of kits that measure all this stuff, actually. Yeah. What we need to do is stop overcomplicating our lives here. What we should all do, diabetic or not diabetic, is we should all adhere to a 100% carnivorous diet with the minimum possible transgression that we can achieve in our life. And that is the ideal thing to do. And we should be recreationally active at a high intensity for half an hour, 3 times a week to maintain our general health and operational fitness. That's what we should do, and we should stop overcomplicating everything, I think. So that's my 2 cents worth. Yes, indeed, meat burgers are the normal ones. We agree, Jessica. Yes. And yes, it is absurd that the Germans are being asked to choose between normal or meat. It's just crazy. Now, drone services. Late to class, dusters for you. Don't be late for the next session, which begins in 10 minutes. What you'll have to do, boys and girls, is log off this live stream and then log back in for the next live stream, which is under a separate URL on the old YouTubia there. And when you do that, in about 10 minutes, I will be with my next guest, which is Mr. Brett Lloyd, and we're going to talk about the things that Mr. Saladino has had to say and Brett's feelings and ideas on all of that, which is something that he has not hitherto spoken about publicly. he's kept it to himself until now, but he's had enough and he wants to talk about it. So this will be one that's probably well worth a look-see too. So Cappy, tell us about your meal frequency on any given day.
I would say I usually eat twice a day. So I get up and I go to the gym early, and I'll just have a coffee in the morning, maybe with some cream, and go do CrossFit. And then I come home and then I eat. And usually it's a large amount of eggs and some kind of meat. So steak or ground beef patties or other things too. So I'll have that. And then I'll go to work, and I usually will eat after work. So maybe 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'll eat twice. Yeah.
Okay. Cool bananas. And how many times are you shooting up the old insulin?
So both those times I eat, I'm taking that regular insulin, that mealtime insulin. In all insulin dependent diabetics, we have long acting insulins that are going all day long, and so that's going regardless if I eat or not.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Cool bananas. And just for those that have had their head somewhere warm and moist and don't know, tell us about your A1C. Tell us about your blood sugar control across time.
Yeah. So my A1Cs are almost always under 5. My last one was about 4.7, I believe, which is exceptional for diabetics. And was it Jennifer that was commenting here before? Her at 4.5 is also exceptional. So we are really like rare among diabetics, which is sad because this is actually normal insulin sensitive A1C. So that's what we should all be. And it's not even a goal for endocrinologists for their patients to get that well controlled.
I mean, well, they still think 6 is a win, don't they? Some of them.
Yeah, no, even under 7 is usually what endocrinologists will say, that you're healthy if you keep it under 7.
Yeah. I have a nephew whose A1Cs are typically 7 and above, and he's being congratulated for such good control at his age. He's not yet 20.
Yeah.
And I keep saying to him, son, if you don't get this under control at this age, you are not going to make old bones, my boy.
Yeah, it's going to get tougher and tougher. I mean, his body might be a little forgiving now, but it's going to catch up quick. And something that might motivate a young male is one of the things that's going to go soon might be erectile function. So that might motivate him.
Maybe. Not sure it's something I can bring up with my nephew, and perhaps I'll talk to his mother about it, and she'll say, "Oh God, I'll tell his father to have a chat to him or something." Yeah, so that'll be the way to go, I think, on that one. All right, so Wes wants to know how you first came about learning about carnivore. Was it through Dr. B or was it somewhere else?
No. I mean, so I've been doing the low carb thing, protein focused low carb thing since 2010, so a long time. Carnivore, I don't know what exactly. I mean, so I've been in this kind of low carb keto world for a while, and I don't know what was the first thing I stumbled across about carnivore, but it wasn't far off from what I was already eating. So yeah, I did find Saladino's book really early on too, and I don't really agree with the things he's doing now, but his book is halfway decent, and it makes a lot of good points. And that was something I read early on. Now, 200 grams of carbohydrates a day in fruit and honey. I don't know about that.
400 now.
Yeah.
So it's just going up and up and up. Addicts who are I need more.
He's extremely active and lift weights, and he surfs all day, and his body can tolerate that. But I think your average person watching him thinks that everyone can tolerate that, and I think it might hurt people because it's a little misleading that people think they could get away with that, but they actually can't. Yeah.
I mean, I've said publicly more than once that Paul should stop all the activity and live an normally active life, and not surf 3 hours every morning and lift weights that afternoon as well every day.
Yeah.
Keep eating the same diet. Even reduce the so-called caloric intake commensurate with less activity, but still keep the same proportions of protein, fat, and carbohydrates that he's eating now, and see what happens.
And I think he needs to like take a break, because it's like every couple months he seems to have a new thought on things and preaches it like it's the gospel, you know?
Yeah.
And
Oh no, I was wrong. Now I've got a new idea. This is the truth.
yeah.
Join me next week for a new truth, and then the
Yeah.
week after that I'll have another truth again. Exactly. Yeah. It seems to be about what's popular, and what people want to hear.
Should I worry about low blood sugars when I'm in a state of producing ketones as a type 1 diabetic? Yeah, yeah. I mean, so the ketones are protective for low blood sugar. So you know that it's good in that sense. But if you're having low blood sugars, that means you can be using less insulin, and either your basal or bolus doses need to be adjusted then.
Yep, absolutely. Now, Pim, Queen of the Pirates, first of a name, the unpoked mother of puppies, wants to know about the science supporting the idea that crispy bacon is the ambrosia of the modern gods.
Is she a crispy bacon or a roast bacon?
Yeah, she's a crispy bacon girl.
Okay. We don't need any science. Everyone just
just anecdotes.
amazing.
Is it just anecdotes? That's all you've got there, is it? I see. All right. Good. What's Jeremy saying? Sugar is average around 62 most days, but feel great. Any worries? Carnivore 3 months, keto 4 years. 62 is probably not too bad, is it?
Yeah, and he's not. I don't think he mentioned he's a diabetic, right? This is someone else. Yeah, if you're feeling good, that's probably fine. Again, if you're a diabetic, take less insulin, but and you know, be safe. But for a non-diabetic, yeah, that's 60s seems to be fine in people that are insulin sensitive and eating a low carb diet.
Awesome. Very good. Okay. Thank you, Ryan, for your very, very valuable time today. We do appreciate you spending it with us and answering questions for us. It's been great to have you on board, and would love to have you back again for another live session soon.
Awesome.
Glad the experiment eventually worked with the glucose meter there. That was good. Join me in a few minutes on the next stream, which is under a different cover, so you'll need to log out of this one and log into the next one, where myself and Mr. Brett Lloyd and also Yellow Ted, who you will not see, will be present, and we'll be talking more about Mr. Saladino and his carry-on during the next hour. So stay with us, boys and girls. Have a quick wee if that's what you need to do. Get something to munch on, some popcorn chicken or something like that. And yes, we'll keep the vibe of the show rolling. See you in a few minutes on the next live stream. Thanks again, Ryan. Cheers, buddy.
Yeah, take care.
All right. See ya.